Right. Hello. Just give me 1 second. I just have to check that I'm on the right place on Instagram. Yes, I am. Good. How are you? How's Monday going? Good? I hope it's going well. It's fine if it's not. Not every day goes great. We're going to do a bit of meditation. And this isn't a class. It's just a chance to meditate together. So if you are an experienced meditator, brilliant. Can you hang on for a minute though while I explain what I do, just for the benefit of people who are new to meditation. I do these meditations on Monday, Wednesday and Fridays. They're part of the further emergence work I do. If you're curious about further emergence, I'll explain all about it when we're finished the meditation today. On Wednesday and Friday, we just meditate. We just get on with it. But on Monday, I explain what I do. So, for me, well, let's start off by saying there's lots of different kind of meditations. This is what I do. And for me, it starts with why I would meditate, because I am trying to connect to a part of me that I connect to every night when I go to sleep. Not the dreaming bit, the bit after dreaming. So I'm sort of dreaming, and then I drop out the bottom of dreaming into deep dreamless sleep, where I have no thoughts, no feelings, no emotions, no personality, no past, no future, no body really, no bed, no bedroom, no nothing. I don't even have me, because I sort of cease to exist, certainly in the way that I normally register my existence. Now when you add all that up, that sounds awful, doesn't it? That sounds like death. Yet I love going to sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel refreshed. So wherever I go to is a good place. Some part of me knows that wherever I go is a good place. And that's where I want to go to, that place, when I meditate. I just want to do it consciously. So straight away, if you're new to meditation, don't try this lying down. Because if you do, the chances are you'll battle sleep or you'll fall asleep, both of which are kind of counter to what you're trying to do. So I encourage you to just sit up. I'm just sitting in a chair. You can sit in the lotus position if you're comfortable, but you don't have to. I'm just sitting in a chair. The only thing I'd say about a chair is if you're going to sit in a chair, don't sit in a big comfortable armchair that you might fall asleep in. Now, as I said, this place that I go to when I meditate, I have no thoughts there. There's something about this place that my mind can't seem to get to. It's like a room I go into and my mind has to wait outside the door. So it's no fun for my mind. So I have to figure out some way of getting my mind on board for the whole thing. Because if it's not on board, I'm just gonna end up fighting my mind or the whole time, which doesn't work. So what I do is I just make an arrangement with my mind. I just say, hey, could you just not think for the next 15 minutes because I want to meditate? Now, at this stage, my mind is on board for it because I've been meditating for so long. It understands and it goes, yeah, okay. It's not wild about it. It's usually like, fine, I'm going to meditate, fine. Having your mind on board is really important. It doesn't become an issue generally the first time you meditate, or even the second time or the third time. It's only when you're trying to have a meditation practice that having your mind on board can become a thing. So I won't say too much more about it now. If you're having trouble with it though, if you want to leave a question in the comments, I will try and answer it. Comments on Instagram are the only ones I can see. So my mind is on board. Good. Next thing, stop thinking. Now, stopping thinking is easier than you would think. The tricky bit with stopping thinking is to sustain it, but to stop is not that hard, because regardless of what I'm thinking about, which would be the content of my thoughts, the structure of my thought is always the same. It's always pictures and sound. So if I turn off the pictures and I turn off the sound, and when I say sound I mean internal dialogues, monologues, conversations, debates, you know, that sort of thing. If I turn off the pictures and I turn off that sound, that's it, I'm not thinking. And as soon as I do that, I'm into the practice of meditation. And the practice and the intention of meditation go together. Now, the intention is, as I said, to go to this deep, mysterious, still, calm, Zen-like, all those words that I use to describe meditation. That place, that's my intention. The place that I go to when I'm in deep dreamless sleep. The practice of meditation starts as soon as I stop thinking, and the two go together. Now, the practice generally goes, I'll turn off the pictures, I'll turn off the sound, so I'll bring myself to not thinking. Then some time will pass and I discover I'm thinking again. I go, oh, I'm thinking again, fine. Turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. Then some time will pass and I'll discover I'm thinking. I go, oh, thinking again, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself to not thinking. Then some more time will pass and I'll discover I'm thinking again, and so on. It's pretty simple. Every time I discover that I'm thinking, I bring myself back to not thinking by turning off the pictures and turning off the sound. And it's good to know that thinking happens during meditation, because it's quite easy to get the misconception that to meditate correctly, in inverted commas, you shouldn't be thinking at all, which isn't my experience. These two things go together. The intention and the practice. They sort of do a little dance back and forth. Sometimes you'll be very still and deep and profound and it's beautiful, and then other times you'll be discovering that it's thinking. And it's quite easy to sort of feel like the times that you discover that you're thinking, well, they're the mistakes, which isn't actually true in my experience. Both of these things, the intention and the practice, are powerful in their own way. It's very obviously powerful when you're very deep and still. You can feel the changes in your nervous system. You can feel your body settling. It's beautiful. The power is not so obvious when you're discovering you're thinking, because, as I said, there's a space there to go, oh, I'm thinking again. God, I'm just thinking all the time. I'm terrible at meditation, which is hilarious because they're just more thoughts. They're just more thoughts to be turned off and brought back to not thinking. But the power bit is, if you're like me, the sort of things that you think about are all sort of to do with you. So I'll be thinking about, why did I say that to that person? Why did that person say that to me? What am I going to do about that thing? And so on. Now, let's say I'm in the middle of meditating, and then I'm in the middle of thinking during meditation, and I suddenly realize I'm thinking. And I go, oh, I'm thinking, turn off the pictures, turn off the sound, bring myself back to not thinking. That's where the power is, because indirectly what I'm saying to myself and what I'm demonstrating to myself is, that thought that you were just having, the one that you thought was you and that you were it, well, you just made that thought disappear. So you're obviously not that thought because you're still here. You're something else. And so you're not any of your thoughts. You're something else. So that's very powerful. And then the fact that you do that repeatedly, that's very powerful too. So the main thing is, don't add to your thinking by thinking about how many times you're bringing yourself back from thinking, because there's no right amount of times, because it changes day to day. And hour to hour. You could meditate in the morning and you only have to bring yourself back from thinking a few times. And then you could meditate in the afternoon and you have to bring yourself back hundreds of times. One is not better than the other. The morning meditation is not better than the evening meditation. It's not the way it works. The golden rule, if you like, is every time you discover that you're thinking, bring yourself back to not thinking by turning off the pictures and turning off the sound. If you do that, you're doing great. Now, while all that not thinking business is going on, I'm also letting go of tension in my body, or you could say I'm becoming more conscious of tension in my body. So what I do is I scan my body from my head down to my feet, back up again very slowly, up and down throughout the whole meditation. I'm just being very aware of my body. And what I'm looking for is tension. And anywhere I find it, I let it go, and I use my out breath to let it go. And I do that for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it's very natural to just breathe it away. There's something about just breathing out makes you feel like, yeah, I'm definitely letting go of that tension. I often think of it's a bit like being on the beach when the waves are not too big and the water is just coming in and out, just very gently coming in and out. Every time the water goes out, the sand is a bit smoother. And the out breath is a little bit like that. Every time you breathe out, it's a bit smoother on the inside. The other reason I like using my out breath to let go of tension is it's just a good way of bringing a little bit more consciousness to my breathing, because with all the thinking, not thinking business, it's quite easy to hold your breath or to stop breathing altogether. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. It's quite easy to do that in meditation. So using the out breath is just a good way of not holding your breath. Then the other thing is, as I'm scanning my body up and down, I spend a little bit more time on any structure in my body that goes across, because mostly my body runs longitudinally, head to toe. Any structures in my body that go across or are transverse, they can pick up tension a lot more than the longitudinal structures. They operate a little bit like a log going across a stream. You know, it'll pick up all the twigs and the branches, anything that comes through down the stream. Except in my body, it's not twigs and branches, it's tension. So I'm spending a little bit more time on my eyes, my jaw, my tongue. They're all transverse sites. The base of my neck, my shoulder girdle. Can be a lot of tension in the shoulders. All my joints are transverse sites as well. So my shoulder, my elbow, my wrist, my fingers, my heart area, my respiratory diaphragm, all my intestines, my pelvic floor, my hips, my knees, my ankles, and my toes. It's nice to have a quiet room when you're starting out in meditation, because one of the things that triggers thoughts is sound, little sounds in the distance. And of course, as soon as you close your eyes, your hearing amplifies. So the quieter the room, the best chance you'll be given your mind to not have thoughts triggered. And one of the other things I do to help myself not trigger thoughts is I set a timer for how long I'm going to meditate for. Now I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes, but if you're new, this is the first time you've ever meditated, I'd encourage you to set your timer for 5 minutes and repeat it 3 times. Because 15 minutes is a long time if you're not used to it. I know that sounds crazy, 15 minutes is nothing, but when you have your eyes closed, it can feel like a lot. And even if you have set a timer for 15 minutes, what I found is around the 7-minute mark, your mind will come in and go, no, you didn't turn it on. You should look. Let's check the watch now, because I don't think you turned that timer on. Let's check the phone, whatever timer you use. So yeah, I'd encourage you to set it for 5 minutes and then just repeat it 3 times. All right then. Off we go into the mystery. Okay, it's time. Open your eyes when you're ready. So as I said at the beginning, these meditations are part of the further emergence work I do. Further emergence is to do with growth, inner growth, growth in consciousness, growth in awareness. You could call it spiritual growth, that sort of growth. Because your body pretty much stops growing when you become an adult, but you keep growing on the inside. That doesn't stop. That goes on for your whole life. You only have to think about, who you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. It's kind of obvious that you continue to grow. And just like when you were a child, you might have gone through periods of accelerated growth, they're called growth spurts. You go through them on the inside as well. And they too continue for your whole life. But they're different in some ways, because when you were a kid and you were going through a growth spurt and maybe you had some growing pains and you went to your parents and said, oh, I've got some pains in my shins or wherever you were having the growing pains. Your parents wouldn't have rushed you to hospital. They wouldn't have brought you to the doctor. They would have just said, oh, that's terrible, but it's natural. It's just growing pains. It'll pass. When you're going through an inner growth spurt, much harder to feel like it's natural and it'll pass, and there's a much bigger space for you to feel like there's something wrong with you, you're broken, and it's not natural at all. So the overarching kind of focus of the further emergence work is inner growth, to help and support inner growth. And then particularly when you're going through an inner growth spurt, and it can be really difficult because there's a huge space there to feel like there's something wrong, as I said. And some of the ways we provide the support is with these meditations, because the more familiar you are with your inner landscape, the easier it is to navigate these inner growth spurts. Then there's a retreat. I have a retreat every 3 weeks to a month, and that's a chance to do some more meditation, a bit longer meditations. The retreats generally go for kind of half a day, 4 hours. We do 3 longish meditations. There's questions and answers, and there's also a chance to kind of see, oh right, it's not just me, there are other people going through this as well. And that can be really helpful, because one of the things when you're going through an inner growth spurt, it's very easy to feel like isolated, because almost overnight you can go into a feeling of no one understands you and no one gets you. Yesterday everyone understood you and you understood everybody. Today, no. So going to the retreats helps, because you can kind of hear other people and go, oh, okay, it's not just me. Now some of the extracts from the retreats are on YouTube, and then the podcast is, some of the episodes are made up of the audio from those retreats, so that can help to listen to those and get an idea of what they're like. Then I work one-to-one with people as well who are going through further emergence or particularly difficult bits of it. One-to-one work is really helpful because further emergence kind of expresses itself differently in each person. So I've been through it myself loads of times. I've helped lots of people through it as well. So it's just nice to get very specific feedback for what's going on for you. And then also I do sort of behind the scenes energetic work. I'm a craniopsychotherapist for many years, so I use those kind of skills to help the person's system harmonize. So the two things go together very well. I do shorter kind of sessions without the energetic thing as well. They're more kind of in the coaching kind of style, mainly for people who are like, look, I'm not interested in this consciousness, spirituality, awareness stuff now, but I do want some reflection. I do have questions, and that's what the shorter sessions are for. So I do that as well. What else have I got? Some books. I've written books. I've written 4 books, all roughly around the subject of further emergence. So it's quite a bit there. Now, if you're still with me, if you're still, if you've watched all the way to the end, or you're still part of the live thing, maybe some part of you is going, yeah, there's something to this. In which case, I'd encourage you to just let that part of you that's saying to you, there's something to this, let it tell you what to do next. Meaning, whether you come to more of these meditations, these are great to do. whether you want to come to a retreat, whether you just want to watch some videos about the retreat, listen to the podcast, get in touch for some one-to-one work, or none of the above. That part of you will know what to do. All right, so thank you for meditating with me.